Welcome everybody to my Paragon Monolith hero build. Today we are featuring my deck for the one and only Grux. He is um, one of the melee fighters in the game, usually used for jungling. Before we get into the deck, let's see his emote there. Um, Before we get into his deck, let's look at his abilities right quick just to get a baseline for what it is we're trying to do with him. His basic attack is Chop. It does 58 basic damage. Then we have his first ability here called Double Pain. It does 60 ability damage, and it applies bleed to any enemies hit with it. Now, what bleed does is that it drains one health, from 1% of health from a target over 5 seconds, right? So the more health the target has, the more damage bleed will do. So you want to obviously apply bleed as early as possible in an encounter. Smash and grab here, it does 75 ability damage and pulls enemies within the wedge-shaped AOE, and also stuns them while they are being pulled. We have here his charge. It does some damage to anybody in his path, and he basically just sprints forward 1200 units. Then we have Warlord's Challenge here. This it stuns enemies, nearby enemies, for half a second when you use it, and gives your basic attacks all do bleed and increase of 25 basic damage for 8 seconds. So it's basically it's a stun, and it's a stun slash buff. So he also, as we saw here, he is the only character here that can actually apply bleed. So we're going to see us, or in my deck, I try to utilize that, put cards that will benefit him specifically because of this unique characteristic that he has. So without further ado, let's go here into the decks. Okay, so right from the back, you will notice that my prime card is the Archmagus. Here, his wave clear with the smash and grab and the double pain is phenomenal. So he can clean up minions pretty easily, which is why I decided to have the minions get a buff to structures, not instead of other minions, or a health buff. Which is what the other two prime cards do. This way he can very easily push down a tower and take it within a matter of seconds. So as the title of the deck suggests here, this is a jungle build. I will suggest people play Grux in the jungle, although he can solo lane, he can support as well. But seeing as how this is a jungle build, we will be starting off here with the Sage's Siphon. I'm going to go through the build order in the order that I would build it in a game, just to make it simple. So Sage's Siphon, we start off with. Why Sage's Siphon? Because he doesn't have any form of sustain in the jungle, so he's going to need the passive from a Siphon. Also, we want to fully upgrade it as well, because it does have a fully upgraded bonus there of 6 power. So we fully upgraded the Sage's Siphon with 3 minor powers here. I call them minor powers. I stopped calling them minor strike and minor cast, because minor power is what they are. Sage's Siphon here, 3 minor powers. It'll help us stay alive in the jungle. As long as you kite them, you take almost no damage with this, because his basic attack will a lot of damage, as we already saw. So after that's completed, we go here into the Brawler's Ward, and I'm at. Hold on. I might consider putting in a Magus Siphon instead of a Sage's Siphon, because his abilities are very easy to use. You want to use them. You know, his kit is one where you can easily use up his abilities quite fast. So obviously meaning that you're gonna shoot through mana really quickly. So that's why I actually have a Brawler Sword here. for that little bit of increased mana. So I am considering switching out the Sage's Siphon for a Magus Siphon here. We'll have the same amount of power, but instead of getting a little bit of health, we'll get a little bit more of mana, allowing us to use his abilities a little bit more. It's probably what I will be doing in the future. But regardless though, you can do whatever you want. I'm just showing you what I do here. So we start off with the Siphon, then we go into the War, complete those. That's your first 12 points there. After that, you want to go into your first Rust Breaker here, all power. After 12 points, you know, this is your next 6 points, so you're going to be at 18 points after this. I feel getting that 1 point of pen is actually will be helpful, because at around 18 points, people will have already hit, you know, a couple levels in. They'll be, you know, pretty, you know, I don't know exactly what level people will be at, but they'll be at a high enough level where a little bit of penetration will definitely increase your DPS. After this first Rust Breaker, we go into our Wind Carver Blade, because he loves attack speed. You want to increase his attack speed as much as possible. So Wind Carver Blade next for another 6 points. Finishing off the 6-point cards here with the second Rust Breaker here. This one has 3 minor pierces in it, so a bit different than the first Rust Breaker, in that it's pretty much just concentrating on pierce. Because at this point right now, if you see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 6-point cards completed, right? That's 30 CP. That's halfway to maximum already, which means people would be maybe a little around level 10 or so. You're gonna need the pierce to cut through the basic armor that people will have total during the end game, right? At close to level 15, most heroes will have 20 basic armor or more. So you need some penetration to just get through that basic armor. That's basic armor without actually building into any basic armor. Like, without any of these cards, heroes have a bit of basic armor, so you need to get rid of that, just to keep your DPS as high as possible, right? So right now we have, like I said before, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards here at 6 points. Our next 6-point card will be the Rift Magus Scepter here, with mostly focusing on crit chance. And the reason why I go for the Wind Carver Blade first is because you want to already have increased attack speed to get the most out of the crit chance. You know, it's just, I feel it's better to get attack speed first and then crit chance, as opposed to the other way around. You could feel differently. You know, it is what it is. The build order doesn't really matter all that much. This is what I prefer. That's what I'm saying. So now you have 6-point cards in your loadout. You want to start looking to replace this Sage's Siphon. 6-point cards, right? Wind Carver, Sage's Siphon, Double Rust Breaker, Rift Magus, and Brawler Sword. Yeah, 6-point cards. So now the Sage's Siphon has actually lost its value like a card or two ago in terms of the passive. You don't really need this passive anymore. So now you want to replace that. And what I like to replace it with is Cup of the Vampire here. Now, this Sage's Siphon is a 6-point card, and if you do the math here, obviously 5, 5, and 2 is a 12-point card. So as soon as you have 6.6 CP again, you can go ahead and go back and replace the Siphon for a Cup of the Vampire. It's going to give you a little bit more penetration, and it's going to give you a good amount of lifesteal here, as well as a very unique passive here, which is 12.5 lifesteal against bleeding targets. Now if you go back to his kit that we went over in the beginning of the game, the double pain and the Warlord's challenge, basically his main damage dealing ability and his ult, they both make him cause bleed to his targets. Okay, so 12.5 lifesteal right here. That's 5 CP worth of lifesteal. So you get 1 lifesteal and 1 basic pen for the from the card. So that means you're paying 3 CP for the passive. But the passive is actually worth 5 CP. And with Grux, it's always going to be live because you're always going to want to apply bleed to your targets. So you're actually getting 2 extra CP of lifesteal here from the unique passive on Grux specifically. And lifesteal is just it works really well on him. It just works really well on him. I can't say anything more than that. So now that you've gotten rid of your Sage's Siphon there, you actually want to go into your Blade of Agora because you already have a bit of crit chance, right? So now let's try to utilize that crit chance. So go into your Blade of Agora, replacing this Rust Breaker here, right? This is just a damage Rust Breaker, but as you can see, you have a lot more damage here in the Blade of Agora. So it's going to be a pretty big damage spike, as well as that crit bonus that you will be getting. It's going to just increase your damage by so much, a ridiculous amount even. Okay, the 50% crit bonus. I mean, 100% crit bonus is pretty monstrous. Remember, you already have the Rift Magus Scepter, so just focus on getting that Blade of Agora, and again, this is a 6-point card and this is a 12-point card, so all you need is 6 more points, and that's the theme. That's the return to base theme with this deck, right? Every 6 points, if there's nothing going on, right? If you're not needed in lane or in a fight or whatever, if you have 6 points, go to base. You can upgrade something. It's very easy to know when to go back to base, with this deck, because it's basically just every 6 points. So you replaced your Rust Breaker here with the power upgrades with the Blade of Agora. So now what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are still maximizing your what am I saying? Your damage here. So seeing as how you are hitting pretty hard, you want to hit faster now. So replace the early Wind Carver Blade with the Whirling Wand. After that, you can replace the Rift Scepter with the Merciless. You could even do that earlier. In fact, if you really wanted to, go back to once you change out this Rust Breaker for the Blade of Agora, you can change out the Rift Magus for the Merciless instead, just to really get that crit chance up there, right? And what does Merciless do? Well, it's somewhere along the same lines as a couple of Vampire, right? You have you have 2 points of stats on here already, right? You have 1 CP of crit chance and 1 CP of attack speed, right? So that means you're paying 1 CP for the unique passive here, which is 12% crit chance against bleeding targets, and 12% crit chance, as we can see here, is actually worth 3 CP. So again, you're getting 2 more CP worth of crit chance than you paid for the ability on bleeding targets, which again, playing Grux, your targets, whoever you're trying to kill, will more than likely be bleeding, because you're either going to hit them with the double pain or with your ult. So you just get a lot of value from those 2 cards there in terms of stats, right? This is the main crit chance card here that you have. It's also, you get a little bit more attack speed, which is always nice. So the thing with the crit chance is, after building the first crit chance, you want to go into Agora and then go back and update the crit chance, probably, just to really maximize the crit bonus, because crit bonus right now, crit damage is so good that getting that online it basically trumps everything else. Okay, so then that's the final build right there. You're going to have a Blade of Agora at 12 points. You're going to have a Cup of the Vampire at 12 points. You're going to have a Whirling Wand at 12 points. You're going to have a Merciless at 12 points. That's 4 12-point cards. Then you're going to have your Brawler's Ward at 3 points. And you are also going to have your Rust Breaker here, the second Rust Breaker that you built here at 6 points as well. So it's 2 6-point cards and 4 12-point cards. Final build. The reason why you keep this Rust Breaker obviously is because it has all of this penetration. You're gonna have, this is all the penetration you have in the deck. It's a total of 4 CP of penetration, which equals 16 pen. Remember, every hero has a minimum of 20 basic armor without even having any basic armor cards equipped. So this 16 points of penetration, basic penetration, will always be live, will always increase your damage no matter how you look at it. You will always need, you should always, it's actually less penetration than what you should have, to be honest. I should put more penetration in there, but I just couldn't find a way to do it. What I wish was that Void Steel Dagger and Rustbreaker were a bit different. I wish one of them focused more on penetration than the other. I would have gone with that card, because you usually want around a minimum of 5 CP of basic penetration on enemies that deal basic damage. And here we only have 4, but I chose to undershoot pen by a little bit as opposed to overshoot pen by 4 or 5 CP, because the only other way that I thought about increasing pen was to switch out the crit bonus card here with a death nail possibly, but again that would have put me way above my target goal for penetration, for basic penetration. So I'm a lot closer to my target by just keeping this Rustbreaker here with 3 minor pierces in there. In terms of the actual stats here, we have a total of 19 points going towards power, right? Which is equal to 114 stats in power. 19 CP worth of power is 114 points of power. Then we have 16 CP worth of pen. I mean 4 CP worth of pen, which is equal to 16 points of penetration. We have 13 points of attack speed in the 13 CP of attack speed, which is 71.5 actual attack speed. Then the crit chance, we have 40% crit chance here, with a bonus of 12 on bleeding target. So for on bleeding targets you have 52% crit chance. Lifesteal we have 28.5 lifesteal with a bonus of 12.5 lifesteal on bleeding targets, so that's a total of 41 lifesteal on bleeding targets. And we also get a little bit of mana here from the Brothers Ward, 1 CP for 30 points of mana. That's basically how it breaks down. 19 in power, 4 in pen, 13 in speed, 10 in crit chance plus 3 from the bonus, 9 in lifesteal plus 5 from the bonus, and 1 in mana. And those numbers are all just the CP values, actual CP values within the card. So the difference here is if they're bleeding or not, right? If they're bleeding, you have a total of 54 CP worth of stats. If they're not bleeding, that is 54 CP worth of stats. If they are bleeding, you have 62 CP worth of stats. So you obviously get a nice big increase in crit chance and lifesteal from 8 CP worth of crit chance and lifesteal combined by making somebody bleed, which is very easy with Grux, obviously from his double pain and his ultimate. So that's my build for Grux here, Jungle Grux, a very strong jungler. No reason why anybody should not jungle with him. I've actually seen people offlane with him, I've seen people support with him as well. So very versatile hero, but definitely I would say a really good ganker, a really good jungler, and controller, attacker, all of these things. He's a very versatile hero, as you can see there. Obviously concentrating on basic damage, basic attack damage. So yeah, that's my build. Again, final build: 12 point Blade of Agora, 12 point Cup of Vampire, 12 point Whirling Wand, 6 point Rust Breaker, 12 point Merciless, 6-point Brawler Sword. And yeah, that's all for the build. Thanks for stopping by. Bye bye.